こんばんは。お待たせしました。
Good evening.
寒いですね。
Yeah.
あ
It was
過
nice
ぎ
during
ちゃ
the
った
day.
ね。3分過ぎちゃった。
Yeah, we're a
すい
little
ま
bit
せん、
late.
すいません。お待たせしました。
How are you?
Good. いや、実はね、さっきどうしてもチョコレートが食べたくて、もう急
So,
いで帰ってきてって
so,
マージャにお願いしたのね。
I'm just back now because there was a problem. I had
Mhm.
been overcharged. I'd been overcharged for the chocolate.
うん。
They were charging me like 840 yen for like, I'm like, that's rather strange. But this is chocolate I don't usually buy. Then when I checked the receipt, it was tobacco, which I didn't buy.
うんうんうん。
But it was the previous customer's purchase. So they had to refund the money, but that wasn't going very
あ
well. So
先に払っちゃったんだもん、それで。
yeah, I paid.
800円で。800円くらい。
Yeah. And then I checked the receipt
Mm.
and I'm like, it was a 500 yen purchase. That's not mine.
で、言ったの。
Yeah.
うん。
And they said, oh, so sorry. Okay, just a moment. So that they refunded it. And then I was on the way back
うん
here
うん
and they came running after me
Mm.
saying, sorry, there's been a problem. It didn't go through. Please come back.
あ、そうだったんだ。
そう
だから遅かったんだ。
So sorry.
すいません。
How is everybody? Yeah,
Something,
Thursday again.
うん。
We discussed this last week. It's a busy time of year with evaluations, reports, interviews with
Soですね。
parents. How's it going for everybody?
ね。
The chat box is on,
うんうん。
alive
Zehi,
and
zehi.
well. Go ahead. Today especially, we will be discussing
うん。
people who have made a difference in our lives, Hiromi's life and my life,
うんうん。
when it comes to the skills of the 6Cs.
あ、こんばんは。サチ先生。こんばんは。
Sachi sensei, good evening.
うん。そうそうそう。今日はね。
Yes, it's very nice to be told that we inspire people, but of course, we have also been.
あ、みのり先生。
Minori sensei,
こんばんは。
good evening. We too have been inspired by truly some tremendous people.
うんうん。
And
そ
so
う
we're
そう
going to be
今日はね
discussing
そう
that.
ね。今日はね、6C について、まあ、細かくはセミナーでやるけど、今日はね、ちょっと 6C のこういくつか挙げていくんですけど、その言葉を聞いて、あ、この人、そうだなとかね、
Right.
関係あるなとかいう人をもう紹介したいなと思います。だから先生方にも多分こう思い返すとね、出てくるんじゃないかなと、ね。
Absolutely, because the list of famous people that we have selected as being our inspirators are by no means an exhaustive list. We have no doubtedly forgotten people along the line, and by all means, please let us know in the chat box who has inspired you when it comes to thinking about the 6 Cs.
まあちょっと待って、その前になんか皆さんのエリア大丈夫ですかね。最近学級閉鎖とか学校が休みになっちゃったりとか結構あるみたいでね。お教室もちょっとお休みしますとかいう先生もいらっしゃるみたいで、なんか。
One of our daughters, we have two. Our youngest daughter was asked to stay home because of her class situation. But the elder daughter was asked to go to school as usual. So you can imagine there was a little bit of friction there. Why do I have to go to school?
そう、行きたくないとかなってね。今だったら休みなさいみたいになっちゃって。結局休ませたりしましたけどね。
もういいよ、休
む。で、なんかね、学校によって地域によってもその判断が結構違うみたいで、濃厚接触者関係のどこから濃厚接触者みたいなの全然学校によって違うみたいですね。
Well, I heard this, that the standardization for elementary schools was different for junior high schools. So, for example, if you're a student at school, at elementary school, the person in front of you and the person behind you is considered a close contact, but not the people to the sides of you. But in junior high, it's front and back and sides.
小学校はサイズがない。
そう。面白いね。
うん、
その基準どうやって考えてるんだろうね。
学校席でしょ？あんまり関係ないと思うんだけどね。
Well, it's true that maybe people turn around and
いや
speak.
でも、そしたら横の方が飛ばない？わかんないけど。
Don't know.
まあまあね。
Don't know.
あんまりこう騒ぎすぎるのも、まあいろんな考え方があるんでね。ただなんかこう最近こう風邪ひきね、気味の先生とかもいらっしゃるみたいなので、まだまだ寒いから気をつけて、体調には気をつけていっていただきたいなと。
But it does make you wonder, what happened to influenza?
あ、そうそう、聞いた？インフルエンザ54人。すっごい、もうインフルエンザの耐性はついたのかな、私たちね。まあ、あんまりちょっとやめときましょう。でもまあ、いろんなね、お休みだったりとかいろんなことがあるかもしれませんけど、頑張って、ね、やりきりましょう。で、またこう、週末にセッション8があるんですよ、最後、終了式が。大丈夫かな？
大丈夫でしょ
う。私は全然いいですけどね。まあまあ、楽しみに。何があっても、相当なことがない限りはやりますので、楽しみにして。
Yes. It's gone by so quickly, Hiromi, hasn't it?
本当に早い。
It almost feels like it's too quick. I still want to know more about the teachers we are working with. Also, because of this corona and so many of our teachers participated on Zoom. It was very difficult to feel like I'm actually getting to know.
なんか、Zoom はすごく便利なんだけど、やっぱりこう、
The connection's different, isn't it?
全然違うね。もうちょっとこう、増やしてもいいのかな。ほら、講座
Well,
を
see, Sachi Sensei is a case in point. Because we have enjoyed her company face to face at more than one session. Of course, Sachi Sensei. You know what I mean? Like it's a really strong connection.
そう、まあ、なかなかほら、アプリフト0期の時とかも東京の人いなかったのね。地方の先生が多かったから。
Right.
でも今東京関東増えてきたし、またやってもいいかなとは思うんだけどね。
But anyway, I am enjoying Rocky. There are some wonderful teachers there. I mean, on a personal level, I would love that connection, but on a professional level, we're doing fine. They are doing fine. The course is going very well. And we're getting geared up for Nanaki.
So, Nanaki ね、まだ
Are we calling it Nanaki or Shichiki?
Nanaki.
Okay.
Nanaki またちょっとね、アップデートします。現地最高です。ね、なんかやっぱ違いますよね。なんかこう、私たちが動いてもいいかもしれないけどね、また大阪でやるとか。
Yeah, that would be really good, wouldn't it?
本当はね、それもやっていきたいけど、休めないからね。でもいいんじゃない？もう休んで。
Let me think about it. Let me think about it.
やっぱ違うよね。
Well, I like travel within Japan. Not a big international traveler, but I do like. Well, I like the Shinkansen.
そうね。
Yeah. I'm a
お弁当食べたい人。
Yeah. That whole experience.
ちょっとまた考えましょう。もうちょっと増やしてもいいかなっていう気はするね、フェイスとフェイス。で、私たちも家でやるの結構辛いからね。ここだけで喋ってるの。なんか誰かいないと寂しいのね。リアクションが見えないじゃない。一応こう 2台3台でやってるけどさ。ということで、最後楽しみにいきましょう。そして2月には一気にね、7期の募集と、あと次世代型英語教育セミナーをやります。なので、もうね、結構、定員になりそうな日付が、あと1人2人でマックスになっちゃいそうな日付もあるんですけど、まだ空いてる日付もあったりするので、ぜひ、来ていただきたいなと思います。ね。
Yeah, well, so we've got a very busy couple of months coming up.
そう、だからセミナーもやって、あとリピート制
Yeah,
だけどね、
yeah, yeah,
今の
yeah,
リピー
yeah,
ト
yeah,
制の
yeah,
サポ
yeah,
ートがあっ
yeah, yeah.
て、でね、またやりたいことがあってね、マシュのブログのやつとかも、今もう移しましたからね、次のステップと、あと中学生のやつもやりたいし、やりたいこといっぱいあるね。
And before you know it, it's going to be the end of the year in April starting.
うん、
And in the kindergarten, or the preschool rather, where I am the director of, it's called Bright Up
うん、
English Immersion Preschool, out at Kiba. We will be getting 8 new
う
kids.
ん、うん、
We have currently 7,
うん。
so it will be full house. We will
Mm.
have a total of 15
す
kids.
ごいね。2年でやったね。
Yeah,
フルだね。
full house after 1 year.
Right.
So it's going to be, I'm going to need your help. Not your help, but your support.
Yeah.
I mean,
まあ、as always.
7.
I'm your biggest supporter.
Oh, thank you, darling. 7 kids. Like any teacher will tell you this, 7 kids in a class and 15 kids in a class is completely different. But I know it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be a very interesting challenge, very exciting. I'm working with a new teacher coming up.
そうだね。
So it's going to be fun,
はい。
I think. Looking forward to it. I do enjoy the support of the parents, and of course the people I work with. So all in all, it's going to be an exciting year.
そう、私もすっごいやりたいこといっぱいあるんだよね。
ね。
よし。今年は頑張るぞ。
まず、Choco. I can tell you
ご
we're
めんご
not
めん。今1個食べちゃった。
right. No worries. Now,
隠れて。
don't show the brand, obviously, but I can guarantee that one's really nice.
そうそうそう。
It's nice. It's nice.
そう
That's all right. I've got this one. Shall we,
Yes. じゃあやりま
without
しょうかね
further ado, move along to this evening's topic?
はい。
We talk about the 6 Cs
うんうん。
quite extensively. These, if you are new to us, good evening, and a brief introduction to the 6 Cs, because we will be addressing the 6 Cs in more detail, more depth at the seminar
はい。
coming up.
うんうん。
Very briefly,
そうそう。まあ、ホームページに書いてあるぐらいの内容なんですけどね、今日お話できるのはね。話すとね、もう止まんなくなっちゃうからセミナーでやりますけど、まずその 6C っていうね、キーワードがあるわけですよ。で、ちょっとヒストリーを言うと、English Uplift のポリシーは、まあ、次世代型英語教育なんだけれども、その次世代型っていうことを考えたときに、まあ、4つの C がね、まずスタートだったんです。で、この4つの C を意識した、英語教育を始めましょうということで、続けてきたんですけど、やっぱりこういろいろ見渡していくと、もうちょっと足そうってことになって、6C 教育ね、6C Education とか 6C Skill とかいう形で今、English Uplift はこう 6C を大事にしていこうっていう考え方で、先生方にこういろんなね、その講座の中でもお話しさせていただいているんですよ。で、この 6C っていうのをね、今日は先生方に、まあ、言葉をね、知ってもらいたいなと思ってるわけなんですね。大丈夫？はい。
The 6 Cs have been identified as skills that tomorrow's or this generation of students will need tomorrow.
そうそうそう。
Again, we go in detail in the seminars, but the future is very unclear. What is clear is that tomorrow's kids will need, tomorrow's adults will need a set of 6 skills.
まあこれいろんなね、考え方が4とか6とか8とかね、また 6C の中でももういろんな C が出てくるんですけど、まあ、
But at least 4 of them are shared.
そう、4つはね、もう大体どこも一緒。
Right. That's communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration.
こんなやつね。
Right, they're the main 4. And then, depending on which educator you listen to, they've been expanded to 6. And we also like the expansion to the 6.
そうそうそう。
Because here, communication, creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking are now joined by citizenship and character building.
そうそうそう。
Again, we go into details in that at the seminars. But when we think of these 6 skills, and Hiromi and I were discussing earlier today who throughout history or even in our modern day have influenced us in these areas. If you think, and Sensei, please start thinking about this now because we would love your input. When it comes to communication, who has been an inspirer for you? Who has inspired you in the area of communication?
そうそう。
When it comes to critical thinking, who are the critical thinkers that you admire,
Or you have met.
or who continue to inspire you?
Right, right.
Who are the creators, the creative people of the world who you really admire and who has inspired you? Who are the collaborators? Which set of collaborators do you admire and are inspired by? So that's what we're going to discuss today. And we've made a short list of people who we feel represent these 6 skills very nicely. And we'd like to share.
そうですね。
You may agree or disagree. Totally okay. But again, we would love to hear your thoughts because it's true that we may have missed people. We didn't really spend hours and hours and hours thinking of who are, we just kind of, jotted down the first names that came to our minds.
まあ例えばほら、コミュニケーションっていう言葉を聞いたときに、あ、この人すごいよな、
うまいね
うまいな
とか、そう
コミュニケーション、いろんなフィールドでいると思うんですよね。まあテレビでもいいし、いろんな学会でもいいし、大学の先生とか恩師とかいろんなことあるかもしれないですけど、コミュニケーションっていうのにおいて、この人すごいなっていうね、人がもしいたらそれは誰ですかっていうお話なんですよ。
Right.
今日はその私たちが思ういろいろ話しててね、この人そうだよねみたいなのね、ちょっとあったから、紹介したいなと。で、まあもちろん先生方知らない人とか出てくると思うんですけど、まあちょっとね、言ってみようかなみたいな感じでね。
Yes. So there are 6 skills. So we are going to share with you at least the names of 6 people who have totally inspired us in this area. Now, some of them have inspired me personally, some have inspired Hiromi personally, and some have inspired both of us. But we're just going to share. Shall I start? And so the first C being that of communication, I chose this individual as being currently a rather inspiring person for me. Now I'm going to show you a photo first, and I wonder if you recognize this individual. I would dare say that not too many people here recognize this individual, but you never know.
知ってるかもしれないもんね。
Okay, photo first, and then I'll give you a few seconds to write his name in the chat box if you can.
できないじゃん。これまずその 6C の
Communication.
コミュニケーションね。
When it comes to the skill of communication, this is, I have selected 4 names. 4 names. 4 people who are inspiring me. 3, and you've selected 1. Is that right?
でもそうね。でも私も被ってるのあるからね。
Okay. Okay, this particular gentleman, I'll show you his photo. Looks a bit scary, doesn't he, this young man? I hope he's okay. He's totally okay. He is a comedian and a commentator from England. His name is Russell Brand. If you Google him and read his history, he's had a very colorful history. He's been, had a lot of ups and a lot of downs in his career. He's been a very controversial figure, but he currently hosts a regular show on YouTube with millions
うん
of subscribers where he comments very fairly on the current issues of the day.
うんうん
What I really like about him is that he communicates very well,
うん
very clearly, very very quickly.
うんうん
It's like amazing how he can
頭いいよね。
yeah, how he can
回転早いよね。
communicate an idea and a point so quickly without
うん
actually giving his own opinion.
うん
But what he does is he communicates facts from both sets of opinions and have you to come to your own conclusions. And so actually my top three representatives of the skill of communicators are actually all members of the journalism,
うん
the world of journalism, and the world of they're journalists basically, or social commentators,
うんうん
because especially in this day and age, those type of communicators are very, very important,
うん
particularly if they can present a balanced
そうね。
opinion or who can present well-documented facts
うんうん
for you to think
うん
about.
うんうんそうね。
So yes, one more time, his name is Russell Brand, and he is in currently my top
うんうん
list
うん
of
イギリス人ね。
of people who have been inspiring for me.
うん
Would you like to go next?
うん
Or shall I continue? Because
いいんじゃない？私は別にいいよ。
okay. I'm going to show you
この
another.
人はね、面白い。大好き。
Yes.
知ってます先生方、この人。
Okay, this particular gentleman, his name is Jimmy Dore. He's an American.
うん
Again, a very similar career to Mr. Russell Brand. That is,
Mm.
he is a comedian
うん
and he does a very similar thing.
Mm.
He has a show with a large number of subscribers on YouTube, and he presents current issues.
うん
And what he does is he presents facts that are, or documented facts
うん
from other media sources, and then he points out the contradiction.
うんうんうん
We said, well, don't you think that's a little strange that this
うん
individual is saying this
Mm.
and it's being reported like this, but this, for example, this event is happening
Mhm.
here, total contradiction. So in the skill of communication, being able to communicate documented facts
Mm.
and have you think about it again,
うん
like Mr. Brand, is a very, very important skill, and he's very good at it.
そうだね。それやっぱこう、デリバーする方法っていうのはやっぱりこうスキルだよね。
Yes.
Mm.
And the other thing is that both Mr. Brand and Mr. Dore,
Mm.
their platform is YouTube.
Mm.
Now, YouTube currently is very sensitive to
Mm.
what information can be broadcast from that platform. So they are deleting or censoring contributors.
Right.
Luckily, we don't appear to be at risk of being censored or
Minimum.
deleted. So
悪いこと言ってないと思うけど。
yeah. Well, warikoto to you ka, anything
So
that
ne.
is not in line with
Right, right.
YouTube
Mm.
guidelines,
Yeah,
which unfortunately
Mm.
sometimes appears itself as against the same opinion as the regulators of YouTube. If the opinion is not the same, then sometimes they are deleted and censored. But these particular gentlemen are very skilled at navigating those guidelines and presenting fairly.
そうだね。今 YouTube とかね、よく見てる先生とかはあれと思うけど、ほら、言っちゃいけない言葉とか、いろんなのがあるじゃないですか、YouTube の中でね。だけど彼らは結構ストレートに言ってるけど大丈夫なんだよね。上手なんだよね。
Yes.
なんか変な隠語とか使わないで。
No.
だけどうまくやってるのすごく上手だよ。
Right.
うん
They're also very clear in that they're either not presenting their own opinion, they are simply reporting the opinions of others,
そう
which
だからい
is
ろんなところから出てきたのをこうまとめて
no.
どうこれおかしくないとか、ここ矛盾してないとか、これそうだよねとか言ってるだけなんだけど、それが非常に上手だね。
上手。So when it comes to communication, the skill of communication, particularly the communication of ideas, the communication of news, the communication of opinions, it needs to be done with a lot of sensitivity. But in this day and age, the information that we get, information is so important. So the way that information is being communicated is also very, very important.
そうね。彼の YouTube 面白いので、ぜひ見てみるといいと思いますね。
はい。Again, my third person is also a very well-known Australian, this time Australian journalist and filmmaker. He's a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker. I'm sure Minori Sensei might know him because Minori is also Australian Japanese. I wonder if you know this particular gentleman. His name is John Pilger. He is an award-winning journalist, an award-winning documentary filmmaker who is very critical of journalism today, in that he feels that journalists do not ask the right questions to people in authority or people in power or people making important decisions for us. They're not asking enough information getting questions. He has made some very, very, very interesting documentaries that again also highlight some of the contradictions between what politicians say and then what politicians do, what governments say and what governments do. Very interesting gentleman. I totally recommend it. I think I have shown you a speech that he gave once about the testing of nuclear weapons on the Bikini Islands. Yeah. He gave a very interesting speech about that. Just a very, very interesting guy to listen to. He's sometimes interviewed on mainstream TV for his opinions and his thoughts. Yes. Communication. It's a difficult skill. It's a very important one. Hi. And the next one. Hi, Hiromi, your turn to talk about this particular gentleman.
この人は何？アメリカ人かな？
He is American, I'm sure. What's his name?
Stu Peters.
Stu Peters. Stu Peters is also.
彼もアンカーじゃないけど、こう、なんて言うんだろう。
Yes, he's an anchorman of a program.
彼は自分の TV ショーを持ってるんだけど、彼も本当になんだろう、コミュニケーションが上手っていうのもそうなんだけど、熱意
ね。
そう。
Yes.
伝えたいっていうその熱意は本当に
すごいね。
すごいと思う。この方はね、YouTube 出られない系の人なんだよね。あんまり。
そうね、ちょっと言い過ぎかな。
YouTube に出てないかな。だけど、結構彼の番組はよく見てるんだけど。
His interview skills are very good, aren't they?
すごくね、短い時間にグッとまとめて、それをこうオーディエンスに伝えるのものすごい上手、ね。
上手。So very entertaining because anything that's too long.
そう。やっぱりこういろんな人のインタビューを受けながらそれをこうサマライズしながらオーディエンスに投げかけるっていうスキルは本当にすごいなと思う、ね。
そうだよね。So, yeah, that they're our individual. Do you have anybody else? Because I can quickly get.
いや、どうだろう。でもなんかそのコミュニケーションって言って誰っていうふうに思うとなかなかピンとこないんだけど、でもなんかやっぱり今時だよね。なんか YouTube とかそういうのを見る中ではこの人上手だなとかいうのはね、やっぱり その YouTube とかで見る人が多いのかな。ね、
Yeah.
で見ることのがね。
By all means, use the chat box.
あとね、マティー・デュワルトもなかなかいいんだよね。
本当に、コミュニケーション。
上手っていうわけではないけど、ストラテジーがあるなとは思うね。言っときましょう。
Do you need a photo?
マッシュのいらない。
By all means, let us know in the chat box who your favorite communicators are. I'm sure we've missed. We've missed a lot, I would imagine. But
もっと他にね、いる気がするよね。学校の先生とかいるかもしれないけどね。
Yeah, but certainly in terms of how things are happening in our modern world, I chose the area of journalism to pick my favorite communicators.
そうね。なんかさ、YouTube とかで思い出したけど、YouTuber の人とかでもなかなか面白い人いたよね。なんだっけ？
Yeah.
まあいいや。
Yeah. Shall we move on? Let's move on to the next C.
なんとかおじさんって言ったよね。忘れちゃった。すごい上手だなと思った。
Okay, let's move. お、日本人が全然思いつかない。いや、いる。
日本人思いつかないよね。
みんなに
なんだっけ？
Yes.
ちょっと待って。
Well, we're going to move on.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next C. The next C was critical thinking. This was a tough one. Who has inspired us? Oh.
叫んでるおじさん、そう。なんだっけ？わかります？嬉しい、分かってくれる。そう、叫んでるおじさん。海とかで。なんかあの人面白かったな。
Do I know him?
Maybe no. ああいうふうに、すごい、名前出てこないけど、なんか沖縄の方とかだったかな。海辺でさ、結構ふんどしとかでさ、結構いろんな、こう、政治とか社会に関するいろんなことを叫んでるおじさんがいて。
あ、そう。あ、いいね。
そう。セアロガエおじさん。そう。そう、あの人がやったときは、うまいなと思う。楽しくこう、そうって思える、そう。セアロガエおじさん。どうしたんだろうね。あの人なんかもともとお笑いの人だったのかな。でもなんかその文句を言う感じがね、非常に心地いい、嫌味がなくてね、上手だなって。そう。みのり先生ありがとうございます。はい。
Let's move on. Critical thinking. This was a tough area to think of who has inspired me to maybe start my own critical thinking or who do I see representative as a representative of the skill of critical thinking? I have chosen only 2 names. The first, the thinkers. Who are the thinkers?
Thinker. でもなんかこう、そう来るっていうさ、なんか自分にない発想をやっぱり出してくる人がそうじゃない？
Yeah.
そう。
This person I'm sure you will recognize. He's actually very, very well known for his educational views.
そう、言語学の方ね。
Yes. But personally, I've never really been that interested in his educational views. I am interested in his overall viewpoint of the role of education in society. But it's his overall collective vision of what's happening in society. It's his comments on social issues and political issues and more. I mean, scientific issues, a whole lot of. He's definitely probably one of the greatest thinkers of our modern time, and that's Mr. Noam Chomsky. I like this gentleman very much. Yes, he has some controversial things to say, but he speaks with such ease on rather complex issues. And again, he makes you think that, oh, well, that's interesting. That's another interesting way of looking. I didn't really look at that particular issue in that particular way.
でもさ、チョムスキーってどこの人だっけ？
American.
アメリカか。
Yeah.
あ、そうそうだよ。ノーム・チョムスキーね。私逆になんかこのチョムスキーは言語学で学んだ時のその生成文法とかね、聞いたことありますかね？生成文法。Language Acquisition Device が脳にあるよみたいな。そのイメージしかないかな。でもその生成文法があるとかないとかいろんなこのコントロバーシャルとかいろんな意見はあるんだけど、初めて聞いたときに、わ、面白い考えたことないけど本当そうだなと思った先生だったね。初めて言語学を勉強したときね。
Yeah, and he's getting very old now.
そうね。
He's getting very old and he's almost losing his voice. So
あ、
sometimes
そうなんだ。
it's a little bit difficult to understand him.
ノーム・チョムスキーの話とかって聞く機会ないよね。なんか YouTube とかで喋ってんの？
Yes. There's a very interesting documentary all about him, all about his life too. In the 70s, I believe he was very active activist, obviously active activist against the Vietnam War and.
Oh right, didn't know.
Yes. He's inspired many people. He's been a great inspiration. I really enjoy listening to his thinking. And his ability to look at things in different ways and present them.
そうそう、教科書、そうね、教科書の人のイメージですよね。必ず出てる感じ。
Is that right?
いや、教科書ってなんか普通、オーストラリアのじゃなくて、でもなんかこう、生きてる感じ、なんかすごいもう過去の人、それこそエジソンじゃないけどさ、すっごい昔の人のように見えちゃうよね、ノーム・チョムスキーってまだご存命なんですね。
Yes.
はい。
There's another person who we don't have the photo, but I've just been reminded. Zushi Sensei.
そうね、ズシ先生はクリティカルシンカーだね。もう常にね、ズシ先生は私の恩師なんですけど、そう、レジェンド感ね。伝説の人って感じだもんね。そう。ズシ先生はいつも自分に質問を投げかけてる人だからね。
Well, そういう意味すごいでしょ? Because that's kind of the core of critical thinking.
Questioning は半端ないね。
そう、
難しい質問をいっぱいしてくる、答えられないこととかいっぱいしていて、でもそれももちろんね、先生もわからないで質問するから、いや、僕は本当にちっぽけな人間だなって言うんだよ。もう先生に言ったら私なんかもこんなですみたいになっちゃうけど、でもそうね、質問をよくするっていう意味ではそうだね。考えさせる質問が非常に多いね。
That's so important.
そう。
Yeah. All right, and then I have one more in this area, the area of critical thinking. Again, let us know who are your favorites. Nobody has commented yet
なん
on.
か書きにくいんじゃないかな。なかなかすぐ出てこないかもしれない、ね。
I would love to know other people's inspirators in the areas of the 6Cs. Communication we have just finished, so if you are still thinking about who inspires you as a communicator, let us know. And we're on to critical thinking, and my second person is this particular これは本当にそう思う。 I
大好き
wonder if
ね。
you know her.
これね、よく YouTube の中でも話題にしてる先生ですよね。
Her name is Sheena Iyengar,
うん。
and she is she's an author. She's also a university professor.
うん
She is an Indian American.
うん
She happens to be blind,
うん
and she can express herself in such a way
うん。
that again has you
まあ、簡単に言うと、Art of Choosing の人ですよ。
she wrote my
う
favorite
ん
book of all time
Mm.
called The Art of Choosing,
Mm.
and she's the author behind that. I'm halfway through her book now. The Art of Choosing,
Mm.
right? I'm sure she's written a number of books, but that's the
Yeah.
one. Isn't that a fantastic book?
これはね、よかったよね。
これはすごい本だね。
ちなみにこれ私勧めたんだよ。
No, it's not.
そうだよ。
No, it's not. I remember we went into a bookshop in Futagotamagawa.
うん
Tamagawa.
うん。
And because I think I was either coming up to
日本語のやつがあるもんだって。
I think I picked it off the shelf and then maybe you said, oh, that's a good book.
ああ、そうかそうか。そういうことか。
Because I was looking for a book to
そう
read.
先に読んでたと思う私。うん
I think it was we were approaching winter vacation. And I was going to take some books down to
うん
Fukuoka, I
うん
think.
覚えてない。全然覚えてない。うん
And I'd never heard of the author, but the
でこれいい
the
よって
cover
話にな
was
ってで見始めてた頃にちょうど NHK かなんかで
yeah
彼女のレクチャーが見れたんだよね。
Yeah,
夜中。
yeah. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning,
So-
and I was still awake for some reason, and we were just
なん
watching
かコロンビア・ユニバーシティの
Columbia University in a lecturer, and there was this professor,
うん
and she was giving a lecture.
あ、テッドトークも出てるかもね。
Yes, that's
そう
right.
だね。
That's
うん
right.
うん
And I didn't realize
Mm.
she was blind until she said she was just speaking freely to the students, and she
Mm.
goes, "All right, just give me a clap." Over. So usually a professor would say, "Hands up
うん
if you know this and this,
Mm.
or hands up if you think this and this and this." But she couldn't see hands
Mm.
up, so she said, "All right, give me a clap if you think blah 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 blah
うん
blah."
うん
And so like half the
Mm.
audience would be clapping. And all right, now please give me a clap if you don't think blah blah
うん
blah
う
blah.
ん
And the other half of the audience would be clapping. And I was like, why is she having them clap?
Mm.
And then it dawned on me, she can't see
うんう
them.
ん
But the talk that she was
Mm.
giving was fantastic.
うんうん
And so I was like glued to the TV set
Mm.
watching this lecture. I can't remember what it was about. But yeah, she's a very amazing woman.
うん
Amazing woman. And
そうね。
in terms of thinking,
面白かったもんね、レクチャーもね。うん
and so then when I found that book, and I think you said it's the same, that's the same woman,
うん
the
うん
blind woman on the from
そうだそう
India,
だそうだ。
that we saw in NHK. And I'm like, I better buy it then.
そうだね。
Great. Minori Sensei, when you're finished with the book, please let us know what you think. Are you enjoying it so far? I'm sure that's a big yes, for sure.
ぜひ読んでほしいね。
The art of choosing,
うん
all about the choices that we make and why we make them.
うん、選択についてね。
So, 面白い。
面白い。
Again, let us know who are your favorite thinkers? Who is inspiring you today or in the past? Let us know. We would love to hear your comments.
Thinker っていう、critical thinker っていう位置に入るのかわからないけど、トマベチ博士は面白かったね。ドクター・トマベチ。まあこれもいろんな意見があるんだけど、私はそのドクター・トマベチの話を聞いたときに衝撃だったね。こんな風に考える人がいるんだっていう。うん、彼の本は相当読んだね。彼の本はすっごい読んだ。 うん。なかなか
Mm.
知ってますかね、ドクター・トマベチ。
You've talked about him, but I haven't seen
うん
anything.
うん。彼は、そう、カーネギーメロンとかの人だけど、脳科学とか認知科学とかもやってる方なんだけど、でも洗脳を解いたりとかさ、いろんなコーチングをやったりとか、すごいんだよ。確かね、20分100万とかだったかな、コーチングが。
Yeah.
すごい価格でコーチングをやる人なんだけど、はっていう金額が、はっていう、なんかね、すごい短い間に全部解決しちゃうみたいな人なのね。
すごいな。
いやもちろん私は直接マンツーマンではそんな20分に100万は払えるような人ではないのであれなんだけど、それでもなんかディスカウントするぐらいとかした気がしちゃったけど、うん、
Fantastic.
そうそうそう、質問力がね、やっぱり
いいね。
質問する力だよね、クリティカル
大事
シンキングって。本当にそうなのとか、どうして私はそう思ってるのとか、これはどうなのああなのっていう、だから質問力がある人がクリティカルシンカーって言っているんじゃないかなと思うね。うん。すごく大事だよね。
Good, isn't it?
うん。そうそう、養成講座の中では、コーチングをね、学んでもらうんですけど、常に言ってるのは、いい質問をするっていうね。どういう質問をするかによって答えが全然違うわけで、その質問力を上げるっていうのはとっても大事。うん、質問力を上げていくとクリティカルシンカーにもう自動的になってくると思うね。
Right.
うん、
Let's move on to the next C.
うん、
Again, let us know.
うん、
It'd be great to get your ideas. We definitely have overlooked
うん、
a very large number of
うん、
people,
うん、
but in the short time that we had, just jotted down some
うん、
names.
うん、
And we're moving on to creativity.
うん、
Now, rather surprisingly, because I'm a big music fan, and obviously creativity appears itself in a large,
うん、
I mean, there's creativity in anything and
うん、
everything.
うん、
But, and I've been obviously inspired by a large number of creative, genius people in the music area.
うん、うん、
But I mean, I could either show you like 100 photos of musicians that you've never heard of and talk for hours about them, or show you one individual who I believe is probably the king of kings, the master of masters when it comes to musical genius. And that is none other. And I'm sure you will know exactly who I'm talking about. And I'm talking about none other. Oh, this is actually when he was a bit younger.
Oh, really?
Yes, he has aged even further. But of course, my number one inspiring person in the field of creativity goes to none other than Sir Paul McCartney. This man is simply a genius. I had a quick look at his Wikipedia profile, and you might be surprised to know a couple of things. Well, first of all,
奥さんがベジタリアンとかそういうんですか
no, well, I mean, yeah, no. If you look at his achievements, he has written more than 43 songs that have sold 1 million or more records. He has written 32 number one singles. 32 of his songs just go straight to number one. He's written, thousands of songs.
Beatles ね。
I like him because his melody, you know, his melody. As a performer, he's got a great voice and he's a great bass player, but in creativity, in terms of the songs that he can create. And I've heard a lot of, and he talks about it, but there are other musicians I like it too. They all talk about the same thing. They all feel that the song doesn't come from them. It kind of, another musician who I really admire, who's also been inspired by him, is a gentleman called Noel Gallagher, who says it's like going fishing. You take your bucket and you go out there and you fish, and on a bad day, nothing comes.
なんかあれだね、アカシックレコードになんかこう取りに行くみたいな感じ。
Yeah, but on a good day, he says like something just drops down.
落ちてくる感じね。降りてくる感じだもんね。
And within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you've got a song. And Paul Mccartney said the same thing. He says, I don't really think, I think it's the music that wants to express itself through me. And I'm just like the vehicle.
Right.
He feels he doesn't create it, but it just comes through him and somebody's got to do it. It's kind of how he worded it. And Noel Gallagher says the same thing.
Noel Gallagher っていうのは
Oasis のギター。
Oasis ね。
So. Very, very talented songwriter too. And they'll say that a different artist's songs, they'll say, that should have been mine. That was mine. That one got away from me and went over to him.
Right.
That's how they talk about their creativity and the shape that it takes in the form of a song. It's very interesting, and of course that this particular gentleman has inspired today's music for sure. If it hadn't been for the Beatles and his role in the Beatles, then we would not have the music that we have today. And I don't know of any single musician today who can deny that. An amazing gentleman who I would have at my dinner table at a dinner party. If you had to choose 10 guests to dinner, he would be definitely at the top of the list.
ミュージシャンとしてそうね。
Hiromi, do you have any representatives?
クリエイターでしょ？
Yeah.
私はね、いっぱい音楽とかアートとかやっぱりそういうのになると思うんだけど、皆さんが知ってる人の中では、私やっぱりマイケル・ジャクソンってすごくクリエイターだと思う。衝撃だったよね。彼のムービークリップとかダンスとか。
Where does he, the
ムーンウォーク
moonwalk?
見たとき、もうぶっ飛んだよね。なんか
Yeah.
どうやってみたいなね。彼のそのパフォーマンスは
半端ないね。
半端ないと思う。
半端ない。Extremely
だ
creative.
あれを超える人っていうのはいるのかなって思うよね。
いない。
あれぐらいなんかこう驚愕っていうかさ、本当に驚くような。で今はなんかいろんなほらデジタルと組み合わせてっていうそのアートとしてもういろんなそのクオリティが高いことをするショーとかいっぱいあるじゃない？
Yes.
だからそれで素晴らしいんだけど、彼の生身だけでさ、別になんかそのいるだけでもそこからいろいろできちゃうのが、
Yes.
本当にすごいなって思うね。
Yes. Yeah. I forgot about Mr. Jackson. He is, again, brilliant. It's rather sad that his career and his life ended in dubious circumstances or controversy, shall we say, which is rather a shame that area has tainted his genius. But you cannot deny his genius.
なんかね、いろんなメディアとかにもいろんなことで取り上げられたりしたけれど、まあちょっとそれを置いといて、そのクリエイターとしてはね、彼はもうあれを超えるぐらいこうびっくりすることってあるのかな。なんか今逆にこうなんていうのかな、技術が発達しちゃってアプリとかでさ、もうすぐそういうフェイクなバーチャルのなんか面白いムーブメントとか作れちゃうじゃない。 だから何が real で何が fake かもうわからないような世界でしょ。でもそう思うと昔のマイケル・ジャクソンの時っていうのは、いやー、あれは本当に
本物だ
本
ね。
物だと思う。そう
ねすごいね。
すごいと思う。だっていまだにさ、娘とかにビデオクリップとかさ、見るともうすごい夢中になるもんね。すっごいっていう。誰もがこう魅了されちゃうんじゃないかなと思うんだけどね。
Yeah, particularly in the area of dance, which is not my strong point. To watch his performance, and I of course I never went to any of his lives, but even just the videos are, it's like
すごいね。
amazing. Okay, I do have another person, and this is my final person in the area of creativity. A rather surprising addition. You'll be surprised. I chose this person as being a very, very amazing, creative person.
Right.
This guy here. You can notice how dirty my iPad is. This is a soccer player. His name is Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, he is in my list of top creative people because his playing style is very, very creative. He's certainly not my favorite soccer star because on equal par, people like Messi and going back in history to, you know, Pele and to all the big names. There's something about those people who showed that little bit extra creativity on the football pitch that made all the difference to the result of the game, made all the difference to the performance of a team. So, yes, we tend to think of creativity in the area of art, not often in sport, but certainly this gentleman is, to my mind, a very strong representative of creativity.
なるほどね。
Can pull ideas out of a hat, can pull skills out of a hat, can think fast on his feet to produce a beautiful result.
そうね。
すごいね。
すごいよね。
Yeah.
クリエイティビティね。
Let us know who are your favorite
そうね。
creative people.
あとやっぱピカソとかって。
Yes, he was on my list for a short time, but I decided not to talk about Picasso because I don't know much about him. But I'm not a huge fan of the art world, so I can't say with
インスパ
honesty.
イアではないけど、
No.
ただピカソという名前を知らない人がいないぐらいなんじゃない？
And certainly his style was very unique at the time. Amazing. Really, truly amazing.
こうびっくりするような感じだよね。
Yeah. But has he, as a creator, been an inspirer for me? No, I couldn't say so with certain.
私はピカソはあれだけど、絵を描く人っていうのは結構すごいなと思って、私ね、実は絵描くの好きなんですよ。時間があるとなんかちょこちょこやるんだけど、絵を描く人ってすごくって、で最近ね、
習字
も好きだけど、でもやっぱ絵が好きだね。YouTube でね見つけたんだけど、これまたちょっと名前よくわからないで見てるんだけど、結構ねおじいさんで絵描きで、今日はこんなクレパスを買ってみましたよって言いながら、でこれで女の子をこう描いてみましょうとか言って、絵を描くのをやってる YouTube があるんですよ。あのおじさんがねすっごい素敵なの。何言ってるか分かんないよね。分かる人いるかな？分かってくれるかな？絵描きのおじさんの YouTube チャンネルがすっごく好きです。 で、本当にね、色の塗り方とかとっても綺麗で、私ね、小学校の時の図工の先生の言葉がずっと、今でも覚えてるの。ちょっとマシにも言ったんだけど、こう人間のこう顔を描くときに、やっぱりこう小学生とかだと髪の毛がこう黒とかでこうやって塗るじゃないですか。あるいは焦げ茶とかね。でも大体日本人だからって、肌色っていう色のクレヨンになんかこう黒の髪の毛を描くっていう、で黒いクレヨンで目を描くとかね、いうのがあるんだけど、その先生がね、人間の髪の毛をこう描くときには黒だけじゃないんだよって言って、緑とか紫とか青とかを入れなさいって言われたことがあったね。で、髪の毛の色にこう緑とか青とか紫を入れるっていう感覚が子供ながらにないじゃない。髪の毛は黒っていうね。で、その時に、うわ、そうなんだと思って、もうすごい必死になってね、髪をこう、なんか、光が当たるとこんな感じみたいなのにハマっちゃった時があって、あの時はもう衝撃だった。なるほどみたいな。で、今、塗り絵とか私大好きなのね。よく娘とやるんだけど、ハマっちゃってね、もう、娘そっちのけでもうずっとこう、色塗ってるみたいなね。そう。
Yeah,
あとこうパターンを変えたりとかね。見てるそう、猫がいるの。なんか書いてると猫ちゃんが来るやつ。みのり先生は嬉しい。そう、あの人すごい大好き。私、あとパターンとかこう模様を描くのが好きでね。ああいうのもうハマっちゃう、もうずっと。ハマっちゃうっていうかもうすぐ描いちゃう。なんか、ふと。
Yeah, I would definitely apply the principle of coloring hair, not just black, but putting a shade of green or a shade of purple in. That would be fantastic, except I can't draw faces.
マシューがね、もうマシューのね、マシューは絵心が本当にないの。なんかね、人の顔を描くとね、なぜかね、ピーナッツみたいな形になるよね。マジも自分の似顔を描くとなんかね、顔がピーナッツなの。でも似てるんだけどね。なんかね、夏休みの、小学生とかだと夏休みに絵を描きなさいとか宿題があるじゃない。私大好きなの、ああいうのね。作ったりとか。ちょっともうなんかママやらせてってやりたくなっちゃうんだけど。で大体そういうのも、ちょっと一緒にやろうよって言って、マッシュとかも。
We did painting.
そう、ペインティングするんだけどね。
That was fun. I drew a tree. I painted a tree.
そう。
I painted a tree and I made a mistake somewhere. And so to cover the mistake, I just drew rain. I painted rain. So it was a tree in the rain.
なんか間違えたんだっけ?
Yeah, I must have there was something that went that way across part of the tree. And I thought, well, let's do more. And then that's rain.
もうなんか絵描いていいよっていう時間があったらずっとやっちゃうな、私。
It is very relaxing, especially paint. I do like paint.
なんかこうすごくいいよね。あとクッキングもクリエイティブ。
Yeah. I had thought about, and there's a very famous chef. He's died now. He used to travel around the world. Maybe Minori Sensei might know his name. He was an American chef. He had his own TV show, and he used to travel around the world, exploring the cuisine of other cultures and then taking them back to his restaurant in New York. And he was a very interesting guy who, yes, was very creative, obviously. But I'm not overly inspired to try that myself.
でもこうなんていうの、こうレストランとかに行くと、それこそもうアートっていうかもうクリエイティブ、クリエーションじゃない、そのシェフのね。で、ああいうのを見るとこう盛り付け一つにしても切り方一つにしてもさ、いやこれすごいなって思うよね。そういう意味ではやっぱりこう創作制作する人、作り出すっていう人は尊敬するものが多いよね。
Before we moved out of our old place to our new place here, we had a friend who was an ikebana professional,
うんうん。
right?
誰のこと？
Eh,
ああ、うん。そうそうそうそう。
right? And made a full-time living
Mm.
out of ikebana and would travel the world
そ
entering competitions, and his pieces were like
う。もう
sometimes
すごい
very
う
big,
ん
and they would like he would do pieces for hotel lobbies and things
う
like
ん
that.
うん
And pretty amazing
そうだね。
artist, pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
そう。なんかやっぱ生け花やる人とかもすごい、ね。
すごいね。ほんとすごい。
私でもあれなのよ。生け花免除持ってるんだよ。
あ、持ってるね。
うん。そうそう。
Shall we move on? We've got a number of few C's to explore. Creativity to one side. Again, let us know who is your favorite creator,
でもさ
who has inspired you.
やっぱ作り出すのって好きだね。楽しいね。私大好きだな。料理もそうだし、教材作るのもそうだけど。
Next, we're moving on to collaboration.
いいですね。コラボレーション。
Collaboration. Which collaboration
うん
or which collaborators
Mm.
have been inspiring for
うん
us? It's rather obvious, my one.
うん
So we'll get it out of the way, perhaps. Certainly, these two people were this
うん
collaboration
うん
was outstanding. I mean, what can you say? World class, world
うん
moving,
うん
world influencing. The Beatles, their first single was released in 1962 and they split up in 1970.
Mm.
So their career really only lasted 8 short years. But in those 8 short years, this collaboration produced a musical movement that totally changed
うん
the course of modern
うんうん
Western music. So that's it.
そうね。
Fantastic.
ビートルズとかって私全然まあほら聞いてるけどそんなに興味がなかったけどマシューと出会ってから結構ね知ったかな。うん。なんかドキュメンタリーとかも見たしね。
結構すごいな。
うん。
すごい。
なんだっけ関係ないけどほらビートルズの絵があったじゃん。ビートルズが生まれる前じゃなくてビートルズがいない世界に行っちゃった映画って知ってる？
There's a movie. It came out last year or the year before.
もっと前じゃないかな。
And it's called Yesterday.
あ、そう、Yesterday っていう映画が。
Yeah. And have you seen it? It's pretty funny.
あれ面白いよね。
It's about a guy
うん
who is, trying hard to be a musician and is not very successful. And then there's a bolt of lightning like hits the
う
earth.
ん
And then suddenly everybody on earth has completely erased the memory of the Beatles except him.
っていうやつね。まあ、あんまり言うとあれだけどね。結構面白かったね。
So suddenly he's the only person on earth who knows the Beatles songs. So you can imagine what he decides to do with those.
そうそうそう。
It's quite
ね。
a funny movie. Well worth seeing.
うん
Well worth seeing. Collaborators, Hiromi, who are your inspired collaborators? Were you
コ
given
ラボ
a
レーターってどうなんだろう私考えたんだけどあんまりね、
Naka inai. Oh, of course, us.
うん、
I'm inspired by this collaboration.
あごめんちょっとさコラボレーション前にどうしてもクリエイティビティのところで一つ言いたいことがある。
Hey.
あのねプッチンプリン
Puchin pudi.
プッチンプリンのさ聞いたことない
はい
プッチンプリンのこうペキって折ったらプリンが落ちるっていうあれを考えた人すごい
Okay.
どうでもいいけどねちょっと今ふと思ったプッチンプリンのちょっとのことなのにさプチだってプッチンプリンって名前もすごいじゃない、
うん、
上のプチプチってやるとごめんねごめん言いたかった、うん、でコラボレーターね
I'm inspired by our collaboration.
ああ、そうね。マシュと一緒の2人のコ
This
ラ
is
ボ
a
ね。
pretty good collaboration.
そうだね。なんかね、
And I'm inspired by it.
得意分野がちょっと違うっていうか、やっぱ違うじゃない、得意な部分っていうのが。
Right. でも考え方
は
と
一緒なん
ビジョンと
そうそう
ミッションが一
一緒だか
緒。
ら面白い。
面白い。
2人でやるといろんなことがクリエイトできるみたいな感じ。さらにね。
ね、
それはい
いよね。お、
好きな人はすごいなと思う人がうまいことのロックスという観点からしかもインスパイアされてなるとなかなか出てこないよね。おお。
Except for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. そうそう。すぐ出てこないと思う。私たちもね、誰かななんて考えしたからね。なんかそういう目でさ、見てないじゃない、結局。でも
I mean, there are a lot of
うん
collaborations in the music world. Gilbert and Sullivan とか、ABBA とか、The Beach Boys とか、The Rolling Stones と
な
か。
んかあったような気がするな。なんか、
But that's about all.
なんかほら、物とかのクリエイ、例えば、なんかないかな。意外な組み合わせで面白いなっていうのあったような気がする。今すぐ出てこないけど。
I'm sure it happens in the art world. I'm sure it happens.
アートもあるし、例えば、まあ、
Well, of course, it
全然
happens in like the food industry, like at the ramen shows in
あー
Komazawa
そうね
Koen that have a ramen festival every
うん
summer.
うんうん
And so famous ramen
Mm,
shops would then collaborate
うん
to make a, but they were never that good. We used to think, oh, you know, what happens if you cross, you know, sumire
うん
with, you know, whatever.
なんかさ、そういう、
And we tried it and like, ne.
なんかこう、私の中でなんかね、なんかありそうなんだけど出てこないんだけど、そのラーメン屋さん同士のね、こうコラボでの出店っていうよりも、私の感覚の中ではさ、全然違うものが合わさって出てくる感じよ。例えばなんか、ほら、なんかのラーメンなんだけど、なんかのキャラクターが入ってるとかさ。
Okay. Or
あとなんかこ
or the bowl designer.
う、とか、例えば、ものすごく高級フレンチと、なんか街中の、なんかこう、屋台が一緒になっちゃうみたいなとかさ。そこでそんな組み合わせあんのみたいな。
Do you remember there was that restaurant we went to and it was in Minami Koshigaya?
うん
And it on the outside looked like a regular like izakaya.
うんうん
And you go inside
Mm.
and then yep, there was a counter, but there was also like
うんうん
watami,
うん
tatami
Mm.
area for people to sit
う
down.
んうん
And then the
あ
menu
そう
was
そうそう、なんか
the
ビ
me-
ールとかおつま
yeah,
みと
yeah,
か。
yeah. You know,
それね。
korokke,
うん
500 yen, or you
Mm.
know, all that was there,
焼き
all
そ
the
ばとか
papers,
書いてあるね。
yakisoba. But then at the counter,
うん
there was a blackboard
うん
with なんか裏メニューじゃないけども、
そっちはメインなんだよ。
それが結局メインだったね。And it was
フ
French.
レンチなの。
So the
そうそう。
owner, yeah,
あれは面白かったね。
yeah, the owner was a very
うん
qualified
うん
French chef.
そう、なんかね、本当に
そ
普通の居酒屋さ
う、
んで、
そ
なんか、おっちゃんこんにちはって言ってながらこんなのれんとかさ
そう
ガラガラガラって入
う、
って、
そうそうそう
で
そう。
本当にカウンターとかにさ、ほら、お蕎麦屋さんとかに置いてあるようなこう箸が
Yeah,
入ってるのがあって、で、こう、短冊のさ、メニューがさ、なんかビールとかさ、
Yeah.
枝豆とか
トン
言って、
トントントントン
普通になんか
hanging
板わさとか
on
書いてある。
yellow paper around the
ただ
walls.
のね、本当にで、ちょっとこう、カウンターと、その畳の座敷があって、こんなちっちゃいテーブル、折りたたみのテーブル
Yeah,
があって
yeah, yeah, yeah,
なのに、本格的な
yeah.
の
めっちゃ美味しかった。あそこのフレンチが
あ
美味しかっ
れはね、ちょっとびっくりしたけど、
そう
すっごい美味しかった、
た。いいよね。
あのギャップが。
Yeah.
うん
And very reasonable and really nice guy.
うん
ね、よく言ったね。
あれなんでああいうになったんだっけね、忘れちゃったけど。あれはちょっと面白かったね。
Let's move on. Collaboration.
うん
Fine. Let's move on to, so they're the 4 skills we've covered: communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. We have a little bit of time left to discuss the 2 last skills, which are citizenship and character building. Citizenship, again, we'll talk about this in more detail at the seminars. But for us, citizenship means understanding your role in the world as a whole, the global society. What can you do to promote harmony, to promote people getting on, and living your life in a responsible way for the benefit of not just yourself in the global society, but somehow being a global influencer, and how we can all get along. And with that in mind,
これは絶対私もそ
in terms of citizenship and on the spirit of harmony and
う。
global
大好きこの人。
consciousness, I've selected this gentleman here. Again, he's an artist, a musician. This is none other than Mr. Bob Marley. I mean, you just need to look at his song titles: One Love, One Heart, Let's Get Together and Feel All Right. This man was an inspiration to... Yeah. He totally changed the mindset of people. A lot of, for example, in today's modern society, a lot of persecuted people, a lot of people residing in the third world, and showed them the meaning of equality and equality for all. He did it through his songs, through his words. There's a very important moment in Jamaican history. The gentleman, Mr. Bob Marley, is from the country of Jamaica. Perhaps you weren't aware of this, but his mother was Jamaican and his father was an Englishman. And when he was famous, at the time in Jamaica, there was a lot of political turmoil, and there were 2 political parties that were so bitterly divided that it did turn into rather serious street violence. And so there were a lot of weeks, there was a whole summer of unrest in Jamaica, and I don't remember the year exactly, must have been in the middle to late 70s. And there were 2 politicians, and they were so bitter, and it was such a violent time that he put on a concert in Jamaica it was a very dangerous time to be putting on a live performance, but it was called the Smile Jamaica concert, and he invited those political leaders to join him on stage and to put their hands together for the people of Jamaica in a symbol or a gesture of peace and unity and harmony. So very inspiring. Mr. Bob Marley. Fantastic. Another person who I feel represents the spirit of citizenship in our world is this man. A lot of people will talk about Martin Luther King, and they'll compare the 2 gentlemen for being of a similar way of thinking. Martin Luther King, however, was not really my generation, so I personally not overly inspired, but I do recall South African society being very divided and under a very unjust system, and this man and his words and his perseverance made a big change in that country, so, and the world. Very inspiring young man. Hiromi, what do you think? Citizenship, are you thinking of anyone in particular?
でもね、私ボブ・マーリーって言っちゃうね。
ね。
あまりね、知らない方いらっしゃるかもしれないけど、いいですよ。歌っていうか、歌詞がね、非常に良い。
Yeah.
ああいうのさ、 なんかさ、ビートルズとかさ、なんかシンガーソングとかじゃなくてさ、ボブ・マーリー入れればいいのにと思うよね。
そうだね。Very, very strong messages in the songs for justice for all and equality. Yeah.
そうなんかビートルズとか出たのかな、なんか乗ってたかな、なんかいい歌だよね。
Yes.
ただ、レゲエだからリズムがあれなのかな。
Yeah. He also obviously pioneered and spread the popularity of reggae music throughout the world. But
でも結構聞けばみんな知ってる歌と結構聞いたことあるって歌あるからね。学校とかやればいいのね。
Okay, a few more minutes to discuss the last area, which is character building. This is a little bit tough. This area called character building kind of means, especially in the classroom, it applies to things that we all take for granted as being, well, kind of just good, like kindness, sharing, being nice. I think those characteristics are quite innate in human nature anyway. Yes, it stems from love, but I think it's also being good to people is much more in our nature than not being good. So I really want our kids in the classroom to feel that and to know that. And being selfish, which kids often are, but so are adults, so it's understandable, it's actually not really in our nature. It's more in our nature to be nice to people and to share and to be kind. So with that in mind, a true representative of character building, so thoughtlessly gave to others, thoughtlessly in a good, selfishlessly. What's the word? Without any feeling of herself, gave kindness to a large number of people who needed it. And the other person is this gentleman who you may not know from the photo. However, I'm sure you may have heard of this person. His name is Oskar Schindler. He is a German business owner, a Schindler, yes. He is was a German factory owner who saved a very large number of Jewish people in Germany before the war and during the war from almost certain death. He smuggled them out. He got them into safe houses. He was it was a very dangerous situation to be at the time, and he helped a lot of people. There's a Japanese diplomat. Did you see that movie? What's his name? There's a Japanese. He worked in the embassy in Poland during the German occupation of Poland. It was a Japanese diplomat who worked in the embassy of Japan in Poland, and he was granting visas by the dozen, or by the hundreds, to get people at risk. Oh, thank you, Sugihara.
これなんて言うんだっけ、杉原杉原なんて読むんだっけこれ。
Right. Thank you, Minori Sensei. Yep. That's the gentleman, I'm sure.
なんかさ、私。
And again, another true hero. A hero. And there's a wonderful, wonderful documentary about that particular gentleman. Really worth seeing. Did we see it together? Very moving, very touching.
なんかね、チウネか。
チウネ。
そうそう。
So they are the people who we have awarded. Awarded.
あ、もう偉そうにあれだよね。
They are the people who top our list for the most inspiring people when it comes to thinking about the 6 Cs.
そうね。シティズンシップはあれだけど、キャラクタービルディングはいろいろあるね。いろんな人のが影響してると思う。なんかこう言われるとさ、あげるの難しいけど、でもこうちょっと思い返して、いろんな素敵な人とかさ、素敵な言葉とかね。会ったことないけど、いい言葉を残してる人たちっていっぱいいるじゃない。
Yes.
でそういうのにこうインスパイアされたりとかすることってすごくあるもんね。
Yes.
で、私たちよく言ってるんだけど、やっぱりね、私たちのメンターがいるわけですよ。
This guy here, yes.
もう
Mr.
これは
Jim
ね
Rohn.
この人はもう未だにやっぱり思い出すよね。
Yes, Jim Rohn is a business philosopher.
成功哲学
Yeah.
の人で、それこそ今さ、アンソニー・ロビンズとかさ、すごいもう世界ナンバーワンコーチとか言って、何百万とかのパワフルコーチングとか言って、なんかやってるじゃない？彼のメンターだからね。
Yes.
そう。
And we've received training from him, personal, direct training from him, not man to man, but in an audience, within an audience, on a number of occasions. It's been
彼が生
great.
きてる時にね、直接トレーニング受けられたっていうのは相当私の中では大きかった。だって
I was standing like maybe 5 meters away from him.
でね、彼のね、ジム・ローンの YouTube っていっぱいあると思うので、見てほしいんですよ。
Yeah.
彼のね、喋り方がね、もう癒しだね。でね、すっごく、後から来るのよ。ね。
Yeah.
いっぱいいいことを教えてくれてるし、で、何よりも、
So what-
人としてどうかっていうことをすごく学んだ、
Yeah.
彼から。人としてどう生きていくかとかね。
Yeah.
社会にどう貢献するかとか。
Yeah.
そのお金のこととかもそうだけどさ、どのぐらいを生活費にどのぐらいをこう投資っていうのは別になんか為替とかじゃなくて、
自分に投資、
自己投資にどのぐらいして、生活費にどのぐらいでどのぐらいは寄付をするっていうのを教えてもらった人で、でその時に寄付っていう言葉を聞いて、そうなんだと思って、で初めて一時ね、その高額の寄付をしたことがあったんですよ。自分なりにすごい頑張った金額を。でもその時にすごいね、なんて言うんだろう、気持ちが良かったんだよね。
Yeah.
そう言われた通りにやってみようかなと思ってやった時に、もうそんなの人にあげるなんてとか言えば、その寄付いいだけど、どうしようもったいないとかね、自分で使いたいとかいうところをこう頑張って出した時のね、感覚は忘れられない。
Well, it was a rather big time, wasn't it? It was during March 11th, wasn't it?
そう、その時だね。マーチ 11th の時もそうだったし、あと、子供たちの、いろんな国の養護施設の子供たちの、栄養のクオリティを上げるためのね、サポートフィーを出したことがあって。そうそう、あの時はね、でもそういうの聞いてなかったらやれなかったもんね。なんかチャリンとかいうことあったけど、ちゃんとこう、よし、出すって決められたのは、彼の話を聞いてたからだね。
Well, I hope you enjoyed.
知らない方もたくさんいました。チェックしてみてください。ジムロンはね、ぜひおすすめ。あとほら、7つの習慣とかいろんな人とかもいるけど、私の中の一番最初の、なんていうのかな、自分軸を作るきっかけになった人はジムロンなんですよね。私たちがね。もう何年前 ?2006 年とかかな、彼のトレーニング受けたのね。いやーもうあれラッキーだよ。だって直に会ってさ、話が聞けるなんていないよね。
We are looking forward to seeing you at the seminars that are coming up.
はい。
Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
なんかね、私たち勝手に喋っちゃったけど、でもなんか、いいんじゃないかなと思うんですよね。振り返って、今まで自分が知ってきた、会ってきた人とか言葉っていうのをちょっと振り返って、 こう、その人すごかったな、あの言葉よかったなっていうちょっと前向きなね、
Yeah.
感じで考えてみるのもいいんじゃないですかね。今、なんか世の中わちゃわちゃしてるからこそやってみるといいかなと思います。
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week.
Next week もしかして2月？
そうだね。
はい。
違う。
そうよ。今日27じゃない？
あ、そうだ。もう2
月。
月か。
だから1月終わっちゃうんだね。
Thank you very much. Good night.
はい。また。おやすみなさい。
いやー、考えるの楽しかった。やっぱり。
コラボはなんかある気がするな。私なんかこうコラボって言うと商品企画のコラボの方が多い気がするな。
Yeah, but that kind of collaboration doesn't really inspire me.
前ね、まあちょっと違うけど、ほら、私関わったやつは FOX のベイビー TV だよね。
Oh, yeah.
あれはちょっと微妙だった。
微妙だったよ。All right, good night. Thank you.
おやすみなさい。
Thank you.